What if I told you that you could understand the entire life of a man who saved thousands of children just by looking at a single date on the calendar?
I mean, that sounds impossible, right? Just one date.
Right, yeah, like no massive biographies, no, decades of dry history to slog through. Just one day, acting as like a core sample through a man's entire life.
It's like drilling down into a glacier, to pull up an ice core. You look at that one slender cylinder of ice, and you can basically read the atmosphere, the temperature, the entire environment across decades, all stacked neatly on top of each other.
That's a really fantastic way to picture it. And for you listening right now, that's the exact mission we're taking on today.
Absolutely.
We're doing a deep dive into a stack of historical notes focused entirely on August 16th in the life of Don Bosco. Or, John Melchior Bosco.
Right, a wildly influential 19th century figure, really a giant of his era.
Yeah, and by tracking just this one date across his timeline, we're going to unpack his profound influence on people, this rather mysterious prophecy legacy he left behind, some surprisingly simple life lessons, and how he navigated the brutal, often deadly crises of the Victorian era. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and to really appreciate the arc of his life, we have to start at the absolute beginning. It establishes his origins before we watch him get thrust into the harsh realities of those 19th century public health crises.
Right, so let's set the first scene. August 16th, 1815.
Okay.
It's the evening in a quiet rural hamlet called Becchi in northern Italy. Don Bosco is born.
And right away, the context is so important.
Yeah, the historical notes specifically mention his birth occurred within the octave of the Assumption of Our Lady, and he was baptized the very next evening.
Right, and for those who might not be super familiar with the term, the octave is just the 8-day period following a major feast day in the Catholic calendar.
Like an extended celebration.
Exactly. It basically means the celebration continues for a week. But what's really telling here, I think, is that immediate baptism.
Yeah, doing it the very next evening seems incredibly rushed by today's standards, doesn't it? Like, why the rush?
Well, it was just standard operating procedure for the era. I mean, infant mortality in 1815 was staggeringly high.
Oh, right.
Families simply couldn't afford to wait. From his very first day on Earth, his life is entirely intertwined with the religious calendar, sure, but also with the incredibly fragile reality of 19th century existence.
Survival was never guaranteed.
Not at all.
Which perfectly sets up our next stop on the timeline, where that fragile reality becomes just a full-blown nightmare.
It really does.
We're jumping forward 39 years to August 16th, 1854. This is the Feast of St. Rocco, and we are no longer in a quiet rural hamlet.
No, things have escalated.
A cholera epidemic is absolutely tearing through the region. Bosco is in a district called Valdocco, and he encounters a young man who is just, rapidly devouring a huge melon.
Just tearing into it right on the street in the middle of a plague.
Yes, and Bosco walks up to him and offers what seems like a very mundane piece of life advice. He warns the teenager that eating so quickly could be harmful to him.
Just classic parent advice, right?
Totally. Don't eat so fast. But the young man completely ignores the advice and just keeps eating.
As teenagers have done since the dawn of time, honestly.
Right. But this is where the story takes a massive, really tragic turn. Shortly after this mundane interaction, that exact same young man is found writhing in absolute agony from cholera.
It's horrific.
Bosco stays with him, helps him make his last confession, and the young man dies that exact same day.
Wow.
Now, on the surface, this sounds completely bizarre. I want to challenge this a bit. A kid eats a melon too fast and then suddenly dies of cholera.
It sounds disconnected.
Right. Is this just some morbid anecdote about chewing your food, or is there an actual mechanical connection here that reveals how Bosco viewed his role in a society ravaged by disease?
What's fascinating here is the underlying reality of 19th century public health. It completely recontextualizes that melon.
Okay, how so?
Well, we have to remember how cholera actually works. It's a waterborne bacterial infection. And in the mid-19th century, people didn't fully understand germ theory yet, but they knew disease clustered in poor, unsanitary areas.
So the melon itself wasn't the problem, it was the environment it came from.
Exactly. I mean, think about street food in an 1850s European slum during an active epidemic.
Oh man, yeah.
That melon was likely washed in contaminated water, or, sitting covered in flies in an area where sanitation essentially didn't exist.
That's grim.
So when Bosco tells the kid to slow down and be careful, he isn't just being a nagging parent about digestion. It's a very practical, localized survival instinct. In a cholera zone, hastily consuming unwashed street food was basically a death sentence.
That makes so much more sense. He's offering a practical life lesson about literal physical survival.
Yes.
And when the kid ignores it and the worst happens, Bosco's reaction is what really defines him, I think.
It truly does. If you look at Victorian-era societal norms for a moment, sudden death from cholera was terrifying. Because a person could be fine in the morning and dead from severe dehydration by nightfall.
It's hours later.
Yeah, it was an agonizing way to die. When cholera hit a city, anyone with the financial means to flee the area, they just fled immediately. It was mass panic.
But Bosco's right there in the grime of the street. He doesn't run away.
He was on the front lines. When the practical life lesson failed to save the boy's physical life, Bosco didn't retreat for fear of catching the infection himself.
Which he easily could have.
Easily. But he stayed in the most contagious, dangerous environment possible to offer ultimate spiritual comfort. He helped the boy make his last confession.
Wow.
His influence on people wasn't abstract, it wasn't just a guy preaching from the safety of a pulpit, it was visceral.
Right, he's down in the mud with them.
Exactly. He refused to abandon the youth, even in their darkest and most contagious moments. That level of grounded empathy is exactly why people gravitated toward him.
It's a heavy start to our timeline, but comforting the dying is really only half the battle.
True.
If Bosco wanted to actually change society, he had to build a future for the survivors. Which brings us to the next layer in our ice core, shifting from tragedy in the streets to how he actively built institutional pathways for these kids.
Because you can't just operate in crisis mode forever.
Right.
At some point, you have to create actual systems of opportunity.
Exactly. So we jump ahead 1 year, August 16th, 1855. Bosco is writing a formal letter to the Father Rector, who was essentially the head administrator of the local religious community.
Kind of the gatekeeper.
Yeah. And Bosco is submitting a carefully curated list of boys who wish to don the clerical habit.
And for our listeners, donning the habit meant they were taking the first formal steps toward becoming priests.
Right. So Bosco is vouching for their conduct, assessing their qualifications, and formally requesting they be allowed to take their necessary entrance exams.
He is acting as a massive social bridge here.
How so?
Well, in the 19th century, if you were an impoverished youth on the streets of Turin, your options for upward mobility or education were practically non-existent, like zero.
You were just stuck.
Completely stuck. So by vouching for these boys, Bosco is using his own hard-earned social capital to give them an institutional foothold. He studied them, he knows their character, and he's putting his own reputation on the line for them.
And his ability to read a person's character seems to have been legendary, which brings us to a really compelling moment in the sources.
Oh, this is a great one.
Yeah. We move to August 16th, 1861. A young woman named Rose hits a major life milestone. She formally enters the Dominican convent at Mondovi Carasan.
A huge moment for a young woman of faith in that era.
Yes, but the historical notes point out that this specific event was the fulfillment of a prophecy Don Bosco had made 2 years earlier.
The 1859 prophecy.
Right. Back on August 30th, 1859, he blessed a statue for Rose and boldly predicted that she would one day be clothed in white.
And the Dominican order's traditional habit is stark white.
Exactly. So now, on August 16th, 1861, she fulfills it. Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
I have to push back a little on this idea of a mystical prophecy legacy.
Yeah.
Like, was he truly predicting the future here? Or did Bosco just know Rose's character and the Victorian-era societal options for women so perfectly well that he could essentially math out exactly where her life would lead?
This raises an important question about what we actually mean when we talk about a prophecy in this context.
Right, like is it magic or is it logic?
If we connect his actions across these dates, a very clear pattern emerges. Let's synthesize this. In 1855, he is keenly evaluating those boys, assessing their hidden potential for the Father Rector, right?
Yeah.
By 1859, when he speaks to Rose, he is applying that exact same intense observation.
So you're saying his prophecies were actually just like incredibly high emotional intelligence?
In many ways, absolutely. I mean, we have to look at the rigid societal norms of the 19th century.
Right.
The options for a young woman were severely, severely limited. You generally either married, which was often dictated by financial necessity, or you faced a very hard life of manual labor.
There wasn't much of a middle ground.
None. So if you had a young woman like Rose who was deeply devout, intelligent, and perhaps seeking a life of purpose, community, and education outside of a traditional marriage, well, The convent was one of the very few paths available that actually offered that kind of autonomy.
So he wasn't looking into a crystal ball. He was just paying radical attention to who she actually was.
Precisely. Bosco possessed a deep, empathetic understanding of people's characters. He listened to them, he watched how they operated in the world.
Yeah.
His guidance felt prophetic because it was so deeply seen and understood by the person receiving it. When he told Rose she would be clothed in white, he was validating the profound potential he already recognized within her.
And when you closely observe someone's potential and name it for them, I mean, it's sometimes completely indistinguishable from predicting their future.
It really is.
You tell a young person, you know, I see you doing this great thing, and they internalize it. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, born entirely out of a mentor's unyielding belief in them.
It's the ultimate form of mentorship. He wasn't conjuring her future out of thin air. He was giving her permission to walk the path she was already meant for.
That is a really fascinating way to reframe his prophecy legacy. It wasn't necessarily supernatural magic, it was radical empathy.
Yeah, exactly.
But as we continue drilling down into our timeline, we start to see the toll that this kind of relentless advocacy takes on a person. We've explored his frontline work in the streets with the cholera victim.
Right.
We've explored his deep mentoring and institutional bridge building. Now we arrive at the later decades where an aging leader is trying to cement his legacy while his own body begins to fail.
And this is a crucial shift. The skills required to build a movement are very different from the skills required to protect it and ensure it survives you.
Completely different skill set. So we jump forward to August 16th, 1884. We are exactly 30 years out from the melon incident and the young boy dying in the street.
30 years?
And history is repeating itself. There's another cholera epidemic devastating the area, but the scene is entirely different this time.
He's not on the street anymore.
No, Bosco's not down in the grime of the street. He is writing letters from a bishop's villa in a town called Pinerolo. He sends a letter to a wealthy benefactor, a Mrs. Magliano.
A patron who helps fund his work.
Right, and he is reassuring her regarding the cholera epidemic, advising her not to fear the reported cases, and promising his continued prayers for her family.
Okay.
Now, on that exact same day, August 16th, 1884, Tanfoneria, he also sends a fiercely strict directive to one of his administrators, Father John Bonetti. He urges Bonetti to spend his life preaching the exact, strict observance of the Salesian constitutions, which was the rule book Bosco wrote for his religious order.
His master plan.
Yeah, he explicitly tells him not to try and reform them. Bosco famously states in this letter, anyone seeking reform deforms his way of life.
Wow. That is a very heavy, definitive statement.
It is, and I'm looking at a massive contrast here that we really need to address.
Okay, let's hear it.
In 1854, Bosco was risking his life with a highly contagious dying boy during a plague. By 1884, he is reassuring a wealthy benefactor from the comfort of a bishop's villa and laying down the law about strict institutional rules.
It's a stark contrast.
So what does this all mean? Did Bosco just lose touch with his roots? Did he become the rigid, wealthy establishment he once operated outside of? Or is this just the necessary evolution of an aging founder trying to protect a massive institution in a rapidly changing world?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see the inevitable and often quite painful evolution of his influence.
Okay, unpack that for me.
It is incredibly tempting to look at that contrast, the street corner versus the bishop's villa, and cynically assume he lost his edge or sold out.
It's an easy assumption to make.
Very easy. But we have to factor in what he actually built in those intervening 30 years. He didn't just stay a local street priest. He built a sprawling network of schools, workshops, and religious communities that were keeping thousands upon thousands of kids off the streets, educated, and alive.
He created a massive safety net.
Exactly. And when you create a safety net of that scale, your daily role fundamentally has to change.
You can't be everywhere at once.
Right. He could no longer be the sole guy on the street corner holding a dying boy's hand, because he was now responsible for thousands of living boys who needed to be fed, housed, and educated.
The letters.
Writing to Mrs. Magliano from the bishop's villa wasn't about him seeking personal luxury. It was about managing the delicate relationships with the benefactors whose money literally kept the lights on at the orphanages.
Right. You can't feed the youth if you don't aggressively secure the funding. The logistics of charity require a different kind of frontline.
Exactly. And that brings us to that harsh directive to Father Bonetti. Anyone seeking reform deforms his way of life.
It sounds so inflexible.
On the surface, it sounds incredibly rigid. But you have to view it as the voice of an aging leader, desperate to ensure his life's work survives his impending death.
Oh.
The Victorian era, especially in Italy during the late 19th century, was incredibly unstable.
Politically?
Yeah, the country had recently unified, there was heavy anti-clerical political sentiment, and society was rapidly industrializing.
So everything was in flux.
Everything. Bosco knew his health was failing. He was terrified that the moment he died, his well-meaning followers would fracture the organization by trying to modernize or change the rules he had spent decades carefully calibrating to keep these kids safe.
He was essentially saying, the blueprint works. It saves lives. Do not touch the blueprint.
Reform deforms. It's a harsh life lesson in institutional survival. He had to become the rigid anchor so the institution could remain stable for the highly vulnerable people relying on it to survive.
Man, that's heavy. And that failing health you mentioned becomes starkly, almost tragically apparent precisely 1 year later on our final stop in the ice core, August 16th, 1885. It is Don Bosco's 70th birthday.
A big milestone.
But it is not a joyous, grand celebration. He is staying at a paper mill run by his order in Mathi, strictly there to recover his failing health.
Yeah.
Just 2 days prior, he had an abscess lanced. He's in significant physical pain. He is completely unable to travel back to Turin for the usual festivities.
The historical irony of this particular day is incredibly poignant.
It really is, because while he is stuck at this paper mill, suffering from the surgical wound, his own community, the massive organization he built from scratch, is celebrating his birthday at the Oratory in Turin.
They're throwing the party without
him. And they are celebrating it a day early, on August 15th. They actually got the date of their own founder's birthday wrong.
The people closest to him missed the mark.
Yeah. Yet, despite the illness, despite missing his own party, despite his own people getting the date wrong, the historical notes show he just put his head down and kept working.
That work ethic is just, it's unbelievable.
He used his time that day to handle correspondence and receive visits from distinguished friends. He was working right through the pain, managing the empire.
It is the ultimate unvarnished portrait of a complicated legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, despite his massive 19th century impact, despite the thousands of lives he saved, the sprawling institutions he built, the distinguished friends visiting his bedside, he was ultimately just a fragile human being battling physical decline in a lonely room.
Well, the world he created celebrated without him.
On the wrong day.
It strips away all the mythology, doesn't it?
It does. It humanizes him in a way a massive, glowing biography rarely can.
So let's step back and look at the entire core sample we just pulled from the calendar.
Yeah, let's look at the whole picture.
By focusing entirely on August 16th, we have traced an incredible chronological journey that feels surprisingly complete. We started with his birth in a rural hamlet in 1815.
The very beginning.
We witnessed his fearless street-level encounters during a deadly epidemic in 1854, offering vital survival lessons while comforting the dying.
The front lines.
We saw his deeply observant, almost prophetic mentorship that guided youth toward education and autonomy in the 1850s and 60s.
Radical empathy at work.
And finally, we saw his twilight years as an ailing, fiercely protective leader, managing wealthy benefactors and demanding strict adherence to his rules just to ensure his legacy survived his own failing body.
We essentially watched a man grow up, fundamentally change the fabric of his society, and then desperately try to hold that world together as his physical strength gave out.
All through the lens of a single date on the calendar.
It's amazing, and I think that leaves us with something quite profound to consider about our own lives.
Definitely.
Think about the legacy you are building right now. If historians centuries from now were to drill down into the ice of your life, taking a single calendar date and looking at what you were doing on that exact day across every decade, what kind of story would it tell?
That's a huge question.
Would it show a life of random, disconnected events? Or would it reveal a clear, evolving narrative of the influence you had on the world around you?
That is a question worth keeping with you. We'll leave you to think on that.